The morning sun cast long shadows across the sprawling junkyard on the outskirts of Detroit, Michigan. Rusted car frames and twisted metal created a maze of forgotten dreams, each piece telling a story of better times. The air hung thick with the smell of oil and decay, while the distant hum of the interstate reminded anyone within earshot that life continued to move forward even when some were left behind. 12-year-old Marcus Thompson sat hunched against a stack of old tires, his small frame shaking with silent sobs. His worn sneakers, held together with duct tape, kicked at the dirt as tears streamed down his face. The backpack beside him was torn, its contents scattered. A math book with a broken spine, a notebook filled with doodles, and a crumpled permission slip for a field trip he'd never be able to afford. "They said I was stupid," Marcus whispered to himself, his voice barely audible over the wind whistling through the metal maze. "Said I'd never amount to nothing, just like my daddy." The boy had run here after another humiliating day at Jefferson Middle School. His teacher, Mrs. Henderson, had announced the results of the state assessment tests in front of the entire class. Marcus had scored in the bottom percentile again. The snickers from his classmates still echoed in his ears, along with the disappointed sigh from his teacher. "Maybe they're right," he muttered, wiping his nose with the back of his sleeve. "Maybe I am just another lost cause from the projects." The sound of footsteps crunching on gravel made Marcus look up. An elderly black man appeared from behind a mountain of scrap metal, pushing a shopping cart filled with copper wire and aluminum cans. His weathered face was kind, though deeply lined with years of hardship. He wore a faded flannel shirt and work boots that had seen better decades. "You all right there, young man?" the stranger asked, his voice carrying a gentle southern drawl that seemed out of place in industrial Detroit. Marcus quickly wiped his eyes, embarrassed to be caught crying. "I'm fine, mister. Just resting." The man stopped his cart and studied Marcus with knowing eyes. "Name's Samuel. Samuel Wright. Been working this yard for near 15 years now." He gestured toward the boy's scattered belongings. "That don't look like resting to me. Looks like the weight of the world done settled on your shoulders." "It's nothing," Marcus insisted, stuffing his notebook back into his torn backpack. "Just school stuff." Samuel nodded slowly, as if he understood more than Marcus was willing to share. "School can be tough, especially when folks don't see what you're truly capable of." He paused, his eyes distant. "Mind if I sit? These old bones ain't what they used to be." Without waiting for an answer, Samuel eased himself down onto an overturned crate nearby. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant sound of traffic and the occasional creak of settling metal. "You know," Samuel said finally, "I used to be a preacher. Had a congregation of 300 souls every Sunday morning, wore fine suits, drove a decent car, had folks looking up to me for guidance and wisdom." Marcus glanced at the old man's tattered clothes and calloused hands. "What happened?" Samuel's expression darkened. Pride in poor choices. Started believing my own hype. Thought I was untouchable. Made decisions that hurt people, lost their trust, lost everything." He picked up a piece of rusted metal, turning it over in his hands. "Found myself out here, scraping by, just like you're doing right now." "I ain't scraping by," Marcus protested. I'm just stupid. That's what everyone says, everyone." Samuel raised an eyebrow. "Or just the folks who don't know how to see past the surface." Marcus felt fresh tears threatening. "My teacher announced my test scores in front of the whole class. Bottom 5%. Again, all the other kids laughed, called me names, said I was gonna end up like my daddy in prison or dead." Samuel's jaw tightened. "And what do you think about that?" "I think maybe they're right," Marcus whispered. "Maybe I am just another statistic waiting to happen." The old man was quiet for a long moment, his eyes scanning the junkyard around them. "You see all this metal, son? All these broken down cars and twisted pieces of machinery?" Marcus nodded. "Most folks look at this and see trash, worthless junk taking up space. But you know what I see?" Samuel stood up, walking over to a partially crushed car door. "I see potential. This piece here." He tapped the metal with his knuckle. "This could be part of something beautiful. Again, just needs someone who knows how to see past the damage. "But it's broken," Marcus said. "So was I." Samuel replied, "So are most things worth fixing. The question ain't whether something's broken. Son, the question is whether someone's willing to put in the work to make it whole again." Marcus studied the old man's face, seeing something there he hadn't noticed before, a quiet strength, a sense of purpose that seemed to radiate from within. "Why you telling me this, Mr. Samuel?" Samuel smiled, the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from an adult in weeks. "Because I was you, once upon a time. Different circumstances, same feeling. Like the world had written me off before I even had a chance to write my own story." As the chapter closes, Marcus finds himself listening, really listening for the first time in months. The junkyard doesn't seem quite as desolate anymore. And for the first time in weeks, he doesn't feel completely alone. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus first met Samuel in the junkyard. What started as a chance encounter had become a daily ritual. Every afternoon, after the last bell rang at Jefferson Middle School, Marcus would make his way through the chain link fence and into the maze of discarded dreams where Samuel worked. The October air carried the crisp promise of winter, and the leaves on the few trees scattered around the yard had turned brilliant shades of orange and red. Marcus sat on his usual perch, a stack of old tires, watching Samuel sort through a fresh pile of scrap metal with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd found purpose in unexpected places. "Tell me about the preaching," Marcus said. Breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them, Samuel paused, a piece of copper wire in his weathered hands. "What about it? You said you had 300 people every Sunday. That's a lot of folks listening to you talk." Samuel chuckled, a sound both warm and tinged with old pain. "It was Mount Olive Baptist Church on 8 Mile Road. Beautiful building, stained glass windows, choir that could make angels weep. I thought I was something special back then." "What did you preach about?" "Hope, mostly, redemption. The idea that no matter how far you fall, there's always a way back up." Samuel's voice grew quieter. "Funny how easy it is to preach about things you ain't truly learned yet." Marcus kicked at a pebble, sending it skittering across the dirt. "My grandmama used to take me to church. Before she passed, said God had a plan for everyone, even kids like me from the projects. Your grandmama sounds like a wise woman." "She was. But if God's got a plan for me, I sure wish he'd let me in on it." Marcus's voice carried the weight of accumulated disappointments. "Got another test back today, D-. Mrs. Henderson said I need to apply myself more. But I swear I studied all night." Samuel set down the wire and gave Marcus his full attention. "What subject?" "History. We're learning about the civil rights movement. All these brave people fighting for change, making a difference. Meanwhile, I can't even remember the date of the March on Washington. August 28, 1963. Samuel said without hesitation. "But you know what? The date ain't what matters. It's what those people were fighting for. They were fighting for the right to be seen as more than what others assumed they were." Marcus looked up, surprised by the passion in the old man's voice. "You see, son, I lived through some of that. Was about your age when integration started happening in the schools. White folks looking at us like we didn't belong, like we were somehow less than. Know what that feels like?" "Yeah," Marcus said softly, "I do. But here's the thing, and this is something I had to learn the hard way: other people's opinions about you don't define your worth. They define their limitations." Samuel stood up, brushing dirt off his hands. "Come on, let me show you something." They walked deeper into the junkyard, past towering piles of twisted metal and rusted machinery. Samuel led Marcus to a section he'd never seen before, a small workshop area, where the old man had fashioned a workspace from salvaged materials. A makeshift table held various tools, and along one wall, Samuel had created what looked like small sculptures from pieces of scrap metal. "You made these?" Marcus asked, reaching out to touch a delicate bird fashioned from twisted copper wire and aluminum fragments. "Started about 5 years ago. Couldn't sleep much, so I'd come out here at night and just create. Turns out all those years of feeling worthless, I was learning something valuable." Marcus examined the sculptures more closely. Each piece was intricate, beautiful in its own way. A rising sun made from chrome bumper pieces, A tree crafted from old car antennas. A family of figures holding hands, formed from various bits of metal. These are incredible, Marcus breathed. They're made from junk, Samuel pointed out. Stuff people threw away, considered worthless. But look what they became when someone saw their potential. The meaning wasn't lost on Marcus. You're talking about me, aren't you? I'm talking about all of us, son. Every person who's ever been written off, counted out, or made to feel like they don't matter. We're all just raw material waiting for someone to help us see what we can become. Marcus picked up a small piece of twisted metal from Samuel's worktable. How do you know what to make? I don't, at first. I just start working with what I have, and eventually something beautiful emerges. But it takes time, patience, and the willingness to see past the surface. Mrs. Henderson says I'm not applying myself, but I am trying, Marcus said, frustration creeping into his voice. I study every night, but the words just don't stick in my head the way they do. For other kids, Samuel nodded thoughtfully. You? No, when I was preaching, I had a young man in my congregation named David. Struggled with reading, just like you're describing. Felt stupid, worthless. But that boy could fix anything with an engine. Give him a broken down car, and he'd have it purring like a kitten in no time. What happened to him? He became one of the most successful mechanics in Detroit. Owns 3 shops now, employs dozens of people. But it took him finding someone who believed in his particular kind of smart. Marcus felt a small spark of something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. The point is, Samuel continued, there's more than one way to be intelligent, more than one way to contribute to this world. The trick is finding your particular gift and nurturing it. As they walked back toward Marcus's usual spot, the boy felt something shifting inside him. The junkyard didn't look quite as hopeless anymore. In fact, with Samuel's sculptures scattered throughout, it looked almost purposeful. Mr. Samuel, Marcus said as they reached the tire stack, would you teach me how to make something like you do? Samuel's face lit up with genuine joy. I'd be honored, son. But first, we need to work on helping you see your own worth. Because until you believe in yourself, all the sculptures in the world won't make a difference. As the chapter ends, Marcus finds himself looking at the junkyard and himself through new eyes. The broken metal around him no longer seems like trash, but like possibilities waiting to be discovered. November had settled over Detroit like a gray blanket, bringing with it the kind of cold that seemed to seep into your bones and stay there. The junkyard was quieter now, the usual sounds of Samuel's work muffled by the overcast sky. Marcus had been coming here every day for 6 weeks, and what had started as a refuge from his troubles had become something more, a classroom, where he was learning lessons no textbook could teach. Today, Marcus sat at Samuel's makeshift workbench, carefully bending a piece of copper wire into shape. His fingers, once clumsy with the delicate work, now moved with growing confidence. Beside him, Samuel worked on a larger piece of sculpture of a phoenix rising from flames, crafted entirely from salvaged materials. Easy there, Samuel said, noticing Marcus's grip tighten with frustration. Metal responds better to patience than force, kind of like people. Marcus loosened his hold and tried again. This time, the wire curved smoothly into the wing of the small bird he was creating. I think I'm getting it. You are. Been watching you work for weeks now. Your hands know what to do before your mind even catches up. That's a gift, son. Marcus felt a warm glow at the praise. It was a feeling he'd rarely experienced at school or home. My mom saw what I was making yesterday. She couldn't believe I made it. What did she say? She cried a little, said she hadn't seen me excited about anything in months. Marcus paused in his work. I think she's been worried about me, more than she let on. Samuel nodded knowingly. Mothers have a way of carrying their children's pain. Must be a relief for her to see you finding your way. The sound of footsteps on gravel interrupted their conversation. Both looked up to see a woman approaching, tall, well-dressed, with kind eyes and a purposeful stride. She was clearly from a different world than the junkyard, but she didn't seem uncomfortable in the setting. Excuse me, she called out as she got closer. I'm looking for Samuel Wright. I'm Dr. Patricia Williams from the Detroit Community Arts Center. Samuel set down his tools and stood, suddenly looking uncertain. That's me. Can I help you? Dr. Williams smiled warmly. I hope so. I've been hearing about your work. A friend of mine, Jana Morrison, saw some of your sculptures at the weekend market on Corktown. She couldn't stop talking about them. Marcus watched Samuel's face carefully. The old man seemed nervous, like he was waiting for bad news. I'm not in any trouble, am I? Samuel asked. Quite the opposite. Dr. Williams laughed. I run community arts programs throughout the city. We work with local artists to bring art education to underserved communities. Your work is exactly the kind of authentic, meaningful art we want to showcase. Samuel looked stunned. You want to showcase my work? I want to offer you something better than that. I want to offer you a job. Part-time, flexible hours. You'd work with kids and adults, teaching them to create art from recycled materials. It's perfect for someone with your skills and unique perspective. Marcus felt his heart racing. This was huge. This was the kind of opportunity people like Samuel, people like him, weren't supposed to get. I don't know, Samuel said slowly. I ain't taught nobody nothing in a long time, not since. Since you were a preacher? Dr. Williams asked. Gently, Jana mentioned you had a background in ministry. Samuel, teaching is teaching. Whether you're helping someone find their spiritual path or their artistic voice, the principles are the same. Marcus couldn't stay quiet any longer. He's been teaching me, he said, holding up his wire bird. I couldn't make nothing before, but he showed me how to see what could be instead of what was. Dr. Williams examined Marcus's work with obvious appreciation. This is beautiful. How long have you been working with Samuel? 6 weeks. Marcus said proudly. He taught me that being broken don't mean being worthless. Wise words, Dr. Williams said, her eyes moving between Marcus and Samuel. And exactly the kind of wisdom our program needs. Samuel was quiet for a long moment, his weathered hands turning over a small piece of metal. I let a lot of people down in my past, hurt folks who trusted me. I ain't sure I'm the right person to be teaching anybody anything, Samuel. Dr. Williams said gently, the fact that you're aware of your past mistakes, that you've learned from them, that's exactly what makes you the right person. Our kids need teachers who understand struggle, who found their way back from dark places. Marcus looked at his mentor, seeing the internal battle playing out on his face. Mr. Samuel, remember what you told me about potential, about how broken things can become beautiful with the right care. Samuel met Marcus's eyes, and something passed between them, an understanding, a shared recognition of growth and possibility. What would I need to do? Samuel asked Dr. Williams. Start small. 1 class a week, maybe 8 to 10 students. We provide the space, you provide the expertise. The pay isn't much, but it's honest work doing something meaningful. And Marcus here, Samuel said. Could he be part of it? He's got real talent. Dr. Williams smiled. I was hoping you'd ask. We always need young people to help mentor newer students. It's a great way to build leadership skills. Marcus felt his world expanding in ways he'd never imagined. 6 weeks ago, he'd been just another failing student from the projects. Now, he was being offered a chance to teach others, to share the gift Samuel had given him. There's something else, Dr. Williams continued. We have partnerships with local schools. We can work with teachers to show how art education can support traditional learning. Sometimes kids who struggle in conventional classrooms flourish when they're working with their hands. Samuel looked at Marcus. What do you think, son? Ready to help this old man teach some young folks about finding beauty in broken things? Marcus felt tears prick his eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. Yes, sir. I'm ready. As Dr. Williams handed Samuel her business card and arranged for him to visit the community center. The following week, Marcus realized something profound had shifted. The junkyard would always be special to him. It's where he'd learned to see himself differently. But now it was no longer a place to hide from the world. It was a launching pad for something bigger. You know what this means, Samuel said after Dr. Williams had left. What? Means we're both about to find out what we're really made of. And I got a feeling it's going to be something beautiful. Spring had returned to Detroit with a vengeance, transforming the city from its winter gray into a canvas of green and possibility. The junkyard looked different now, not because anything had physically changed, but because Marcus saw it. Through different eyes, what had once been a place of refuge had become a symbol of transformation. Proof that beauty could emerge from the most unlikely places. It was a Saturday morning, and Marcus was preparing for something he never could have imagined 6 months ago. Today, he would be helping Samuel teach their first official class at the Detroit Community Arts Center. But first, they had a special visitor coming to the Junkyard. Mrs. Henderson, Marcus's teacher from Jefferson Middle School, picked her way carefully through the maze of scrap metal, clearly out of her element, but determined to keep her appointment. She'd requested this meeting after seeing Marcus's dramatic improvement in school, not just in his grades, which had climbed from D's to solid B's, but in his confidence and engagement. "Marcus," she called out as she approached Samuel's workshop. "Area over." "Here, Mrs. Henderson," Marcus replied, standing up from the workbench where he'd been putting finishing touches on a new sculpture, a tree with branches reaching toward the sky, crafted from chrome bumper pieces and wire. Mrs. Henderson stopped short when she saw the array of artwork scattered throughout the workshop. "My goodness, did you make all of these?" "Some of them," Marcus said proudly. "Mr. Samuel taught me how." Samuel emerged from behind a stack of materials, wiping his hands on a cloth. "You must be Mrs. Henderson. Marcus has told me a lot about you." Mrs. Henderson looked uncertain, clearly struggling to reconcile the man before her with her preconceptions. "I have to admit, Mr. Wright, I wasn't sure what to expect when Marcus told me about his mentor in the Junkyard." "Most folks don't," Samuel said with a gentle smile. "But I've found that the most important learning often happens in the most unexpected places." "I can see that," Mrs. Henderson said, examining Marcus's tree sculpture more closely. "Marcus, this is extraordinary. The same hands that struggled to write a paragraph 6 months ago created this." Marcus nodded, feeling a familiar warmth at the recognition. "Mr. Samuel taught me that I wasn't stupid. I just learned different." "He's right," Mrs. Henderson said, and for the first time since Marcus had known her, her voice carried genuine admiration rather than pity. "I owe you an apology, Marcus. I made assumptions about your potential based on test scores and missed assignments. I didn't see the whole picture." "You weren't wrong about the test scores," Marcus said. "But Mr. Samuel helped me understand that there's more than one way to be smart." Samuel stepped forward. "Mrs. Henderson, Marcus told me you wanted to discuss something about the school." "Yes. I've been talking with our principal about Marcus's transformation. We want to start an after-school arts program, something like what you're doing at the community center. We were hoping you might consider bringing your program to Jefferson Middle School." Marcus felt his heart skip. The idea of Samuel's wisdom reaching other kids who felt lost and forgotten was almost too good to be true. "I don't know," Samuel said slowly. "School settings can be challenging for someone with my background." "Your background is exactly what our kids need," Mrs. Henderson said firmly. "They need to see that setbacks don't define you, that there's always a path forward." Marcus is living proof of that. Samuel looked at Marcus, who was practically vibrating with excitement. "What do you think, son? Ready to help bring this gift to your classmates?" "More than ready," Marcus said. "There's kids at Jefferson who feel just like I did, like they don't matter, like they're not good enough. They need to know what you taught me." Mrs. Henderson nodded. "There's a young girl named Destiny who reminds me so much of Marcus from 6 months ago. Brilliant mind, but she's convinced she's not smart because she doesn't test well. And there's Roberto, who's been acting out because he feels invisible. They could benefit from what you're offering. It's not just about the art," Samuel said. "It's about helping kids see their worth, teaching them that being different isn't the same as being less than." "I understand that now," Mrs. Henderson said, "and I'm hoping you'll help me become a better teacher in the process." 3 hours later, Marcus stood in front of a group of 12 middle school students at the Detroit Community Arts Center. Samuel was beside him, but Marcus was taking the lead, sharing his story and demonstrating techniques he'd learned over the past months. 6 months ago, I thought I was stupid, Marcus told the group, holding up a piece of twisted metal. "I thought this was just junk. But Mr. Samuel taught me that broken doesn't mean worthless. It just means ready for transformation. A young girl named Anya raised her hand. "How do you know what to make?" Marcus smiled, remembering asking Samuel the same question. "You don't, at first. You just start working with what you have, and eventually something beautiful emerges. But it takes time, patience, and the willingness to see past the surface." He looked at Samuel, who nodded encouragingly. "The most important thing I learned," Marcus continued, "is that other people's opinions about you don't define your worth. They define their limitations. Your value comes from inside, from your willingness to keep trying, to keep growing, to keep believing in yourself even when it's hard." As the class worked on their projects, Marcus moved among the students, offering encouragement and guidance. He saw himself in each of them, the uncertainty, the hunger for acceptance, the desperate need to believe they mattered. "You're a natural teacher," Samuel said quietly as they watched the kids work. "I learned from the best," Marcus replied. "You saved my life, Mr. Samuel, not just by teaching me to make art, but by helping me see that I was worth saving." Samuel's eyes glistened. "You saved mine too, son. Gave me a reason to believe in redemption again." Sometimes the teacher learns as much as the student. As the class ended and the students began to pack up their projects, Marcus felt a profound sense of completion. The scared, broken boy who had wept in the junkyard 6 months ago was gone, replaced by a young man who understood his worth and was ready to help others find theirs. "Mr. Marcus," Anya said as she prepared to leave, "will you be here next week?" "I'll be here," Marcus promised, "and I'll keep being here as long as kids need to hear that they matter, that they're not broken, they're just waiting to discover what they're meant to become." Outside, the Detroit skyline stretched toward the horizon, a city of second chances and endless possibilities. In the junkyard, Samuel's sculptures caught the afternoon light, each piece a testament to the truth that beauty could emerge from the most unlikely places. And in the community center, 12 young people went home carrying more than art projects. They carried the knowledge that their stories weren't over, that their worth wasn't determined by others' expectations, and that sometimes the most profound transformations begin with a single person who sees your potential and refuses to let you settle for less. Marcus walked home through the familiar streets of his neighborhood, no longer seeing them as a trap but as a starting point. The boy who had once wept in the junkyard now carried himself with quiet confidence, knowing that he had found his purpose in helping others find theirs. The circle was complete, but the story was just beginning.